Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about these. This is a supercapacitor. And you've probably heard of capacitors before. They are devices that store energy in an electric field. So here's an example of a normal capacitor. So as you can see, this is 200 volts and 82 microfarad, if you can see it at all. So this is a standard electrolytic capacitor, or I wouldn't say that it is standard because of its voltage rating, if you can see that. So it's 200 volts, which is very high for an electrolytic capacitor, if I can zoom out properly. And this is a high voltage capacitor, meant to give a high capacitance and high voltage for applications of that sort. And here is a smaller capacitor, at least in terms of voltage. So it is 16 volts and 1,000 microfarads. So this is a bit more normal, but usually your normal capacitors, like over here, these are going to be like 47 microfarad, 10 microfarad, 100 microfarad. This is 15 farads, not 15 microfarads, 15 farads. It's pretty big, but there's a catch. If you zoom in close enough, you can see a voltage rating. 3 volts. 3 volts is very low for a capacitor, but thanks to its insanely high capacitance of 15 farads, it can store a decent amount of energy. So, since normally I would just charge it with some 5-volt power supply, like the one that's back there, but because this has a low voltage, I'm going to charge it with this doohickey. It's just 2 capacitors attached by some magnets and 2 batteries attached by some magnets, and then I can put one of them like this so that I can charge the capacitor. So here's our capacitor, and I'm going to get the voltmeter and see if I can prop it up so that you can see the screen. Yeah, I guess that'll be good. Then hook it up to the, put it on the voltage setting. So, if I can get this mess of wires untangled, I now have 2 alligator clips and I can measure the voltage of stuff. So, goodness gracious. So, get you out of there. So, the voltage across these, might want to turn on the backlight so that you can see this better. It is 2.65 or 2.6 something volts. Then, because I have alligator clips on here, I can attach it to stuff, like this supercapacitor. So, there we go. The alligator clips are now attached to the supercapacitor, so now I can measure the capacitor's voltage. If I can... Because I've heard that these supercapacitors can blow up if they're shorted. And that might be fake, but I don't want to take any risks, so I want to make sure that the capacitor legs are never shorted. So, so that you can see it better, I'm going to turn on the backlight of the multimeter, and then we can measure the voltage across them. You can see the capacitor is charging, so the voltage across it is slowly rising. We're at about the voltage of a way too charged AA battery. It looks like we reached a peak voltage of... What's going on? Why is it discharging? So let's just make sure that the voltage is nice and high. So now, the capacitor is charged, and we can power other things, like this LED. So, don't want the LED to shoot away. It isn't very useful. It isn't, if it isn't, there we go. So you can see the LED is now lit. So, the supercapacitor acts a lot like a battery in that it has a rather high capacity. But unlike a battery, even these AA batteries, this supercapacitor can, it cannot store very much energy at all. So in just a couple more minutes, this LED will be barely glowing at all. So I'll link a video in the doobly-doo sometime soon, but I'll link to a video by the YouTuber Tom Stanton about building a supercapacitor e-bike, and in there he made the connection that that this entire bank of supercapacitors, and not these 15 farad capacitors, but like 500 farad supercapacitors, has about the same energy storage as a AA battery. So these things have terrible energy density. So might want to just put that LED back on. There we go. And that's why these supercapacitors, they aren't really useful for energy storage other than a couple niche applications, such as maybe building an electric plane, which I'll also link to in the doobly-doo. So that's supercapacitors. So there's a couple more things. So let's just get this thing charged up again. So what are we, like 2.1 volts? Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So these supercapacitors can also power some more interesting things than a wimpy little LED. They can also power, if I can find one in my absolute mess of a desk, it can power an electric motor. So yeah, it powers the motor up just fine. And I'd like to, do I have any duct tape over here? Perfect. So let's just see if I can put a little marker flag thing on the shaft so that I can see it spinning, so that we can see it spinning. And, there we go. 2 volts, and let's... Yeah, it vibrates quite a lot, so it isn't really that easy to hold. That's it. We're at 1 volt now. Well, it didn't cut out, it just has bad connections here. And let's see if we can get it down to a voltage where it won't spin. I'm surprised that this thing is still spinning at half a volt. Come on, you can do it. And now, since the voltage is very low at only around 1/4 of a volt, I'm just gonna discharge it with a screwdriver. Yeah, you can see the voltage after that spinning is just 0.27 volts, and if we screwdriver it, And now it's pretty much 0 volts now. So, that's supercapacitors. They aren't really that useful as proper batteries, but they can be used for some things. So, that's it. Bye, everyone.